let's talk Knicks, brother. This team that you've covered for a fair amount of time now is looking very nice after this trade. Anunoby fitting in quite well. We talk a little bit about it each week, but let's dive in a little more. What's the latest sense on that front of how well this has panned out?
I mean, it looks like it's just going to pan out wonderfully for both sides. It's going to be one of those rare NBA trades that we looked at the time and we're like, that works out great for both. And we're going to look back on and think that worked out great for both. I really think that's where this is headed. The Knicks have not lost a game since acquiring OG Anunoby. They're 5-0. We're recording this Thursday morning Pacific time. They have Dallas on Thursday night. That's a tough matchup on the road. We'll see how that goes. But it's not like they're beating down nobodies here. And it's not like they're barely scratching out wins. They're 5-0 since getting OG Anunoby. They beat Minnesota, who has had the best record in the West at the time and has the best record in the West now. In that first game, they took care of business against Chicago with a 16-point win. Then they go down to Philadelphia, and they demolish the 76ers in Philadelphia on national TV. That was a Sixers squad at full strength. They win that game by 36. And they just manhandled them. They just wrecked them. And that's when it was like, oh, wow, is this team, we knew they were good, but is this team really good? Next night, they crush the Wizards in Washington, and then they come home and they just destroy the Portland Trailblazers by 28 in the game. They led by 30 something at different points, and we're basically on cruise control from 5 minutes into the game. They look really good on both sides of the ball. It sounds like there is a possibility that Mitchell Robinson could be coming back this season now, which just adds more depth for them at the center position. Backup center has been a problem. Isaiah Hartenstein has stepped in at starting center and been fantastic in that starting job, but the backup minutes have been a problem. If you get a healthy Mitchell Robinson back before the end of the year, you're playing 48 minutes with a legitimately good rim protector and really good center play. Now all of a sudden, like you're cooking with gas, and I think they might have a trade in them before the deadline, something to help them on the margins too. So, and this team is really, really firing on all cylinders right now.
So I'm going to take your lead there. You mentioned the trade deadline and help around the margins. You already kind of answered my next question, which is, are you leaning now towards against the idea of another high profile splash and more likely something that is complementary? I mean, OG is about as complementary as it gets, and that's obviously worked really well. You see more of the same in that regard?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as high profile as Anunoby. Right. I've said since the beginning of the year that the Knicks front office has been of the belief that obviously they have been in the market for a star, and obviously that's what they are saving all these draft picks up for. They own all of their own picks. They own 4 protected picks from other teams, and they could trade up to 4 unprotected picks and 3 unprotected swaps in a trade if they wanted to do it. But the Knicks front office has been of the belief all season that next huge fish, the big megastar who they're after, it's not going to become available till next summer at the earliest, is their belief. I think they have another trade in them before the deadline, though, something that could maybe bring them a little bit more offense off the bench. Ironically, kind of what they lost with Emmanuel quickly. Quentin Grimes has stepped up, done a good job. Miles McBride has joined the rotation and has gotten hot a couple of times, but McBride's offense is still a question mark, even though he is starting to erase that question mark a little bit with the way that he's been hitting threes lately. But they struggle to score still without Jalen Brunson on the floor. They could use somebody who can create some more offense there. I could see them going in that direction. I could see them making a trade kind of sort of like that.
I like it. I will share, because you mentioned the win-win component of this deal. And this is the fun part about hitting the road and actually seeing people outside of your market. I go to LA this past week, Sunday through Wednesday, catch the Clippers Raptors game. And again, we're going to talk all things Raps with William Liu here in a little bit. But Bobby Webster, Raptors GM, used the exact phrase in our brief chat sideline that you did. I mean, he feels like this is a win-win for both sides. And it looks like the Knicks are dangerous. The Philly game you mentioned, Fred, I know I'm hitting the rewind button a little bit. If we're talking big fish, and we're talking big fish who are not available, pretty good timing on their part to give Mr. Joel Embiid a -29 and a 128-92 Knicks win. Does he, do you think, remain the absolute dream scenario when it comes to them, continuing to keep an eye on that market?
Sure, emphasis on dream.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, dream scenario. I don't think anybody is anticipating that Embiid is going to all of a sudden pop up and be available. I don't think that's necessarily.
I mean, it's going well, but I will say we sometimes forget in January how much things can change. And this is
Totally.
very, very premature. But if they absolutely, wet the bed, so to speak, in the first round and got bounced and things weren't looking good, and maybe the Maxey discussions don't go as well contract wise, whatever, we'll see what happens. But that obviously, for the Knicks purposes, Embiid and beyond, the exciting thing for them and their fans is now all of a sudden the possibilities seem endless. You are a place of desire for players, a place that is doing good things and lighting the garden up, and that's always been the thing. All these years of awful basketball, it's been the what if, for the past 20 years roughly, of if the juice would be back in the building, and it appears to be right now.
Yeah, and can I just add something?
Yeah.
Every Knicks conversation goes to, okay, well then who's the star? Who's the star they're going to get? I think it's important that we concentrate on the guys who are there right now. This team could make a conference finals run.
Like Tibbs right now.
Well, yeah, I do. I spend a lot of time with him. Too much time. Some Tibbs would say I spend too much time around him. I'll tell you that much. He's not going around being like, yeah, I'm the guy who works with Fred Katz. I promise you that. But I really mean it. Like, they just annihilated the 76ers. Boston's clearly the best team in the East, no question. But they just annihilated the 76ers. The Bucks are not infallible. They struggle defensively. The transition defense remains a mess. They don't have a perimeter stopper. And even though they've won 3 out of 4 games against the Knicks this year, I actually think the Knicks match up against them quite well. Milwaukee doesn't have anybody who can guard Jalen Brunson one-on-one. And Brunson has had games where he's torched them. And their only option is really to put Giannis on Julius Randle, which displaces the way that they ideally like to use Giannis defensively, which is as more of a weak side help defender and somebody to wall down the paint. They also have a lot of guys who are really good at floaters. They also have a lot of good jump shooters now who are going to be able to kind of break down where Milwaukee's number one defensive strength is, which is the paint defense. I could see them beating Milwaukee in a series. They just destroyed the 76ers.
Oh, I could too. 100%.
It is not insane to talk about this team as just having a chance to go to the conference finals as constituted without any other moves.
I mean, if you put it that way, Freddie, Maddie, whatever we're calling you these days, it's not insane to put them in the NBA finals. If that's the way you're framing it, it's not, because the Milwaukee thing you mentioned, I couldn't agree with more. And Boston is incredible, but track record of coming just short, obviously about as close as you can get in the finals against the Warriors. But if not insane is the framing, I'm fine putting the Knicks as a finals contender, because the East is it's just there's imperfections abound for the most part.
Is a very good team as constituted. I think you can make an argument right now they're the second best team in the East as constituted. They have a starting lineup that makes a ton of sense. OG Anunoby in his first 5 games with the Knicks is plus 115. He does everything for them defensively now. That first game that he played was such a perfect example of what he's doing for them, because what his presence is, it's not just his personal production. It's the way that he kind of knocks everybody down a peg. So previously that starting lineup, it just didn't make a ton of sense, where RJ Barrett was not complimentary with Julius Randle and not complimentary with Jalen Brunson. These are guys who are at their best when they're inside the 3-point arc. They're the guys who are at their best when they're with the ball, And if RJ Barrett is at his best when he has the ball, but the Knicks are not at their best when he has the ball, that's when you have a problem with fit. That's when you have some sort of conflicting issues. And that's what was going on with them. And it's not a knock on Barrett. It's not a knock on Quickly. It's just a stylistic reality of what was going on with this team for years and years. You bring in Anunoby, his cutting is opening so much stuff up on offense. The fact that he's a 44% corner 3-point shooter is opening so much stuff on offense. They defensively look like a different animal when they have Anunoby out there. They're playing with a different energy. the bench is getting out in transition. Like, this is a team I think you could say they're as good as second best in the East right now. And I think the lowest you could put them is fifth. If you want to put Milwaukee, obviously Boston, Philadelphia, and if you just want to throw Miami there because it's the Heat and we don't need to say any more, then that's obviously completely justifiable. But this is a team that's legitimately really good, and I think is in that second tier of Eastern Conference teams right now. And I'm very curious to see where they go from here.